Okay, so we're going to talk about passive verb forms in Pashto. It's two questions. What are they and how do you make them? So what is the passive voice? Now some of you may say, what are we talking about voice? And voice is just a grammar term for how the different actors in the sentence relate to each other. Now I'll explain what I mean. So normally we talk in the active voice. We say things like, "The kitab likam." I am writing a book. So we have the subject, and kitab is the object, the thing that is written, with likam being the verb. Or we could say harui pachto wai. They, harui pachto is the object, the thing that they speak, and speak is the verb. Or we could say ma rode uchorla for a past tense example. So I ate the food, being the object being the food. So normally you have with transitive active sentences, you have a subject which does something to an object. But if we say this in the passive voice, then what we do is we take the object of the sentence and we move it over and we use it as a subject. So we forget about the actual actor, and the thing that's being done to the object that's having something done to it becomes a subject and becomes the focus. So we just say kitab likal kiegi, like a book is being written. So we have a subject and a verb. That's all. We could say, instead of saying harui pachto ai, they speak Pashto, we can say pachto wel kiegi. Pashto is spoken. So the people who are speaking it have disappeared and we're just saying the language is spoken. Or instead of mar dodeu chorela, instead of I ate food, you could just say that food was eaten. Dode uchorl shwa. So you just have a subject and a verb. Now obviously this only works with transitive verbs because you need a subject and an object, and then the subject disappears and the object becomes the subject of the sentence. So the Farsi grammar term that's used for in Pashto for this is called majhul, which means hidden or mysterious, because we hide the subject and we don't know who did it. We just know that the verb was done to some object. So like if I said in active voice, if I said he killed somebody, that's active. But if I say somebody was killed, then that's passive, because the actual actor of the sentence is gone. We don't know who it is, and we're just saying that it happened. So this is often used in news and some more formal speech sometimes, but it is also used in everyday talking. So how do you actually make these passive forms? So we're going to give you a recipe for this. So normally when we have our active forms of a verb, we have our stems and our roots that we use. And with the passive forms, we're also going to use stems and roots, but we have to modify the stems and the roots. So the first thing we have to do is we have to take the root and we have to take the long form of it and we move it up to the stem. And the same thing on the perfective side. We take the perfective root. So now we've got likal and wulikal in their long form for both the stems and the roots. And we also have to add kidal, the to become, not kidal to happen, but the kidal become roots and stems. And so we mix these two things together, we add this together, and out comes our passive roots and stems. So these forms here is what we use to make the passive forms. Now if you're not sure about how that process works, you want to check it with different verbs, you can go into the dictionary, look up a word, and then when you see the roots and stems, you can just click on the passive button, and then there, boom, you've got your passive roots and stems. So how do we actually make the passive forms if these are our roots and stems? Well, we do it in the exact same way as we did for our active verb forms. So if we want to say in the present tense that something is written, then we take the imperfective stem and we say like kitab likal kiegi. So the book is being written in the present. And if we want to say subjunctive, then we have to go over and use a perfective stem, just like we did with our other regular active verbs. So we would say kitab wulikal shi. See, I'm using the perfective stem now. And that means that the book should be written. It's a subjunctive statement. If we want to say a continuous past thing, then we have to go over and use the imperfective root. So we say kitab likal kida. The book was being written. So that's a continuous past statement. If we want to say simple past, we go to the perfective root and we say kitab ulikal sho. So the book was written. And if we want to make a perfect statement, then we would say, use the past participle and say kitab likal shewede. The book has been written. So you build it the exact same way as you built all your active forms and the basic forms of the verbs, just using the different roots and stems for the different tenses. So let's try some examples. Now, if this is brand new, this will be quite tough, so don't worry if you feel overwhelmed. You can stop the video and try to figure out what this could be, and then see the answer afterwards. Don't feel bad if you're way off. This will be tricky if this is a new thing, but try to guess and see how to build these things, and then when you see how they're actually built, try to figure out how we built that and how we followed the same rules for building verbs. So if we say Pashto is spoken in Afghanistan, then we use the verb wail and we'll use the passive form. So go ahead, stop the video and think about this. Okay, the answer is Pa Afghanistan ke Pashto wail kiegi. So kiegi here agrees with the Pashto because that is the subject of the sentence. Next example. If you say I am being bothered, and we'll use zorawal to be bothered or to bother. So we have to use the passive form of that. So go ahead and pause the video. And the answer is Z zorawal kegam. I am being bothered. Okay, next sentence. You are seen, using the verb lidal. Ta lidal kegi. You are seen. Or let's go past tense, same thing. Lidal. You were seen there. Ta halta ulidal shwi. Or you can use a long form. Ta halta ulidal shwili. Here's a bit of a trickier one. The children should not be hit. We're going to use wahal in the subjunctive, and it's going to be negative. Mashuman una wahalshi. Children should not be hit. Okay, 3 people have been killed. This is the kind of sentence you would hear on the news a lot, unfortunately. Dre kasan wajal shiwidi. It's a present perfect. Okay, another one, a bit tricky. Many stories would be written. So we'll use a continuous past of likal. Deri kise likal kide. Sorry, my pronunciation was not too good there, but you see it. Many stories would be written. Now, as you're learning how to make these passive forms, the Verb Explorer in the dictionary might help you. So if you let's look up a word like lidal, and when you look it up, then you can go in here and you can see the roots and the stems, and there's your charts with the conjugations. But let's look at phrases, and let's make not active voice, but passive voice. So now we just have a subject, and we have to choose a tense. So let's say I. So, zalidal kegam, I am being seen, or I am seen. Or if you are being seen, talidal kegi, you are being seen. Now let's look at different tenses. If we say simple past, ta wulidal shwe, you were seen, or we were seen, mung ulidal shu. And as you can see, there's a bunch of different forms actually. You can also look at the perfect. So if we look at present perfect, say you were seen, talidal shwi, you have been seen. But if it's a girl that has been seen, oh, you see it changes a little bit there. So yeah, you can look at all the different forms, all the different combinations. You can see what the future looks like. And then if you forget how to make these things, you can see the formula here. So you can see what stems it uses, This is the imperfective stem plus the present verb ending. So we look at that. Imperfective stem, present verb ending. There we go. So yeah, have fun messing around with all of this stuff, and hopefully you can get a hang of what's being done and how these things are being built. A couple more notes here. Sometimes people get confused between the intransitive form and the passive form. These are different things. So a lot of verbs have a transitive form and an intransitive verb form. Like the verb pachawal, to cook. You can also say pachidal, which is like to be cooked. Or in English, you can use to cook for both. One is you're cooking something. The other one is something is being cooked. So we would, and for the passive form in Pashto, it's different. You would say pachawal kidal, because the passive form, we're taking the transitive form and we're making it passive. But the intransitive form is just intransitive. It's just saying something happened. So how is this different? In the intransitive form, you would say dore pachigi. So the food is cooking. You're not saying that somebody is actually doing the action. You're just saying that the food is being cooked. It's getting warm. The juices are reacting together and boiling together. So you're saying the food is cooking. But if you say dore pachawal kigi, then you're saying that the food is being cooked. There's a slight difference in that there's someone who's actually cooking the food. You're just not mentioning them. So there's the action is being done to the food, whereas with the intransitive form, you're just saying that the food is becoming cooked. So these two things are not the same, the intransitive and the passive form. Although oftentimes, if there's an intransitive form, people will just use that to say that something happened or something was done. And the last thing is that there is a difference in how this is done between Afghan Standard Pashto and the Pashto in Pakistan and in some dialects in Afghanistan. So whatever's written in like official written stuff will be in Afghan Standard, but people in Afghanistan and I think everybody in Pakistan will use this other the thing on the right. So the difference between the two is that in this other dialect you add an a tail onto the root there. So whereas with Afghan Standard you would say kitab likal kigi, over there you'd say kitab likal kigi, and if you say in the past participle kitab likal shewede, in this dialect it would be kitab likal shewede.